Travis Taylor, thanks for being our guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You know, I don't know if you could hear me during the break, but I was saying one of the things that I think you talked about, you're going to expose science to people who think they're just watching stuff being blown up, but kids could have in them awakened a love of science and future scientists who, have been tinkering in the garage and realized, wait a second, I found my calling. This could be what I do. I wonder to what extent National Geographic, because of the mission they have, to what extent they saw that.
That's a good question. I've actually had conversations with the president of the channel and all that about this, and I've told him that this is my goal, other than, to have a hit show, of course, so I could just do the show if I wanted to. But, no, my goal is really to get people excited about this, get them interested in us doing some bigger projects as a country, as a people, as a culture, and let's just keep moving forward at being great, which is what Americans have done historically, has been great.
Just got an email from a guy in Portland, Oregon, and he says, Michael in Portland, Oregon writes, I'm listening to your interview with Travis Taylor, the Rocket City Redneck. I am 44 years old, and I am inspired. I want to go home and make something. I just had a son, and I've been wondering how to inspire him to do things like this. I want him to be inspired by people like this. I just got their website on the National Geographic page and their article on space.com. I may have to break down and buy cable just so I can watch this guy's show. How nice is that?
Wow, that's amazing.
Have you been surprised by how interested people have been in your scientific undertakings? The previous show you did. Have you been surprised by how interested people are in that sort of stuff?
I kind of am. I am and I'm not, because I know how much I love it, and I know how much it excites me and the people that are my friends around me. I mean, that's what we talk about when we sit around drinking beer. We'll occasionally talk about football and hunting, but we usually end up talking about rockets and quantum physics. But it's one of those things that everybody is curious about. Why are we here? What's the universe all about, and how do things work? And so I think it's in everybody. It's just we've just had a real bad way of showing it to people for a long time now. Ever since we sort of stopped with the space program, we haven't had a big national thing that was so awesome for everybody to get behind. And I want to see people get that enthusiasm back.
I note here that you failed a class in college. What was it?
I only ever failed one class in my life, and it was the third electromagnetics class, a junior level class in electrical engineering. But it was really more of an attitude, me against this particular professor. I disagreed with a young professor in class and argued with him to a fault, where I had no choice but either eat crow or fail, and I was too stubborn at the time, and so I had to learn my lesson, take the class over.
Where do you
Made an A in it the second time.
Travis Taylor with the show Rocket City Rednecks is our guest. Where do you think we went wrong in this country in the pursuit of science in school?
Where we went wrong was giving the kids a preconceived notion or preconceived answer when they'd start to do things. We never should tell them what the answer is when you're doing the science. Let them figure out what the answer is. We don't start telling them things about the world coming to an end or this is how it's going to work and this is how it's going to work. What we do is we show them how to set up the experiment and let them find out for themselves what the solution is, what's going to happen. Make it exciting. Make it an adventure. If it's something that they have to learn through memorization or whatever, then who wants to do that?
I'm looking at the at the different episodes. Bomb-proof my pickup, moonshine rocket fuel, and Junkyard Iron Man. And I note in some of the materials that you built an Iron Man suit. What is your fascination with Iron Man?
Well, let me tell you. My own personal hero and Michael's daddy, my nephew who's in the show, his daddy and my big brother, is an E9 in the United States Air Force, and he's been to Iraq and Afghanistan for long periods of time, about 3 or 4 times now. And they have to wear all this armor, carry all this stuff around. They got so much gear on them that it seems to me like it makes them almost bogged down to where they can't be as effective at protecting themselves from getting shot at. And I've been a long time fan of the idea of powered armor, that if they could wear the armor and the armor enhance their strength instead of sap their strength, then it would go a long way to help them do their mission a lot better. And it would help protect them and give them a better chance of coming home safe. So I got the guys together, and I told them, said, we're not going to be able to build one that works like the perfect Iron Man in the movies, but let's build what we can build and show that with some ingenuity, some junkyard parts, and maybe $1,000 worth of stuff from the hardware store, that we can build a bulletproof suit from head to toe that will enhance your strength, give you some extra sensors, and maybe show people that it can be done on the cheap and in a weekend. And then imagine what we could do if we did a real program to build the suits to give to our troops.
What's the project you wanted to do for Rocket City Rednecks that National Geographic or the production company said, no, that's just too dangerous?
Well, the only thing they've turned me down on had to do with the Iron Man suit. We invented a way to lay fiberglass and sheet metal and plywood together in different layers to make it bulletproof. And we've tested it and shot it with several different types of rifle bullets and proved that it was completely bulletproof. And I wanted, at the end of the show, Pete to come by with a pistol and unload on my chest. And I told him I'd even wear a bulletproof vest underneath the armor while we were filming it, just for safety. And we were completely confident that nothing would happen, but the legal people wouldn't let us do it.
Were you confident Pete was a good enough shot?
Oh, yeah, I've watched Pete or my daddy, either one could do it, but my dad wouldn't do it. And when he found out that me and Pete were hatching this idea, he went through the roof on us.
Well, why don't you just do it with a home camera and then give them the footage?
Oh, well, we talked about that, and I asked the production company, and they said there's no way that the legal would clear them ever showing that. So I'm not going to do something that's going to make anybody upset or mad, because this is such an opportunity for us to show these types of experiments to the world that I don't want to take a chance of stopping that capability.
Travis Taylor, thanks for staying with us so long. A couple of quick questions based on, I'm going to synthesize all the emails I'm getting and ask them rapid fire. Role models for you.
Role models for me,
Yep.
Alan Shepard, Chuck Yeager, Story Musgrave. All those are big astronauts. Fictional-wise would be Jim Kirk. Then writers like Mark Twain and Robert Heinlein. And then, of course, my dad and my big brother.
You had to throw Heinlein in there. How awesome are you? You just get more interesting the more I ask you. As a child, books or movies or TV shows that inspired you and are some part of who you are now?
Absolutely. I would start off with the first science fiction book that I ever read, and that was Have Spacesuit Will Travel by Robert Heinlein.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful young adult science fiction novel.
I'm a huge Heinlein fan, so I'm
What's
happy
that?
to hear that. I'm a huge Heinlein fan.
Yeah, awesome. And then TV, of course, I grew up watching the Star Trek reruns, and the movies. The first time I saw Star Wars, I was hooked, and I wanted to be going to new places and seeing new things, and that kind of led me into where I got to today.
Several fathers sending in and saying, I want to get my son interested in science, whether they pursue the field or not. I want them interested in the natural world and machinery and science. What's a good starter project for a young child?
Well, it depends on how old they are, but let me tell you, I don't care who you are and how old you are, to see a rocket get launched right there that you actually put your hands on and built, now that's something. And so what I'd recommend is go to your local hobby shop and spend $10 on a rocket kit, follow the instructions and safety instructions carefully, and do that. And then once you've done one by the kit, find some stuff around the house and build your own rocket, following the kind of same principles that you learned from building a kit. And use one of the kit engines and see what it does, and see if you can make one that flies just as good or better. And then put an egg in it, and see if you can bring an egg home safely. Because think about it, we had to figure out a way to bring our astronauts home safely. And if you could do something in your kitchen or your garage that is similar to that you did with your own hands, everybody just smiles when that happens.
You have a gift for storytelling. A magazine that you subscribe to that you would recommend to others?
Well, growing up, it was always Scientific American and Popular Science, and not really plugging that because I didn't plan this, but National Geographic, of course, and but that was probably because it had pictures of topless women in it.
Right, that's why I watched it as a kid. I read it as a kid.
And we used to every Sunday night, the family would get together and watch Mutual of Omaha's Animal Kingdom, Wild Kingdoms. What it's called.
Yeah, Jim will now wrestle the alligator. Inventors, your advice to inventors. A lot of listeners have inventions on their mind, things they're working to. You have a website or a source or some guidance for people that are inventors by nature?
Well, my first guidance is something that we tell each other all the time on the show, and we use it, and it's one of the things that is about being stubborn that I've been when I would fail maybe the first time and keep moving, keep at it. We always tell each other to stay with it. And that is the first and foremost advice I give anybody about anything. It is a goal of theirs, no matter how much it looks like you're not going to get it for some reason. Just focus that you've got it and stay with it.
Travis Taylor's our guest. He is one of the stars of Rocket City Rednecks, which airs tonight on National Geographic. What thing would you most like to invent that has not yet been invented?
A warp drive.
Why?
I want to be able to take humanity to other star systems at some point in my life.
Does it bother you when you see Southerners or rednecks, whatever you want to say, portrayed in movies and television on the evening news as not as smart as people with different dialects or accents?
Well, there's two sides to that, too. It bothers me a bit, but what bothers me is that people think that smart people in general have to be like the folks on this comedy show, Big Bang Theory. It's a great, funny show, don't get me wrong, and I'm not trying to plug or low-rate the show, but people think that if you're really smart, you have to be ineffective and ridiculously
inept,
silly and stupid like these guys. They don't have enough common sense to walk through an open door. And I tell people that part of being a rocket scientist is knowing the big picture and how to put it all together and make it work. To give you a perfect example, Wernher von Braun was losing political favor and knew that he would lose funding during the early part of the rocket program, so he got in a plane, flew to Orlando, Florida, and talked Walt Disney into helping him out, and Walt Disney started making little cartoons about rockets and putting them on before his big movies aired in the movie theaters.
Wow.
That's part of the big picture.
What person have you been most excited about meeting that you have met in your life?
Wow. It would have to be Neil Armstrong. I actually met him at a conference. I was signing autographs for one of my books, and one of his handlers came up to get an autograph on my book, and they told me to make it out to Neil. And I was like, Neil, how do you spell that? And they said, just like the character in your book who was named after Neil Armstrong. And so I signed it, and I looked up, and I realized that it was Neil Armstrong's, entourage. And so I signed it, to Neil Armstrong. When I turned 1 year old, you were splashing down in the ocean. So it was a great way for you to celebrate my birthday. And I autographed it to him.
How awesome was it to know that somebody for whom you had been a fan was now a fan of your work?
I couldn't believe it. I immediately got off pulled out my phone, called my wife, and she says, well, did you get his autograph? And then, of course, my heart sunk because they were already gone, and I had, I had not asked for his autograph.
I'm betting if you dropped him a note, he would love to meet you. Last question, what person have you not met that is alive that you would most like to meet?
Wow, that is still alive that I would most like to meet. One of my biggest things in life was I never was old enough to vote for Ronald Reagan. I always thought he was an awesome dude. So right now, a guy that's still alive I'd like to meet, I've never met Story Musgrave or Chuck Yeager. I'd like to meet either one of those two guys.
Okay. Who's the greatest scientist, if you have to pick one, of all time?
Oh, wow, that I have to pick one of all time.
You have to.
Have to pick one. Of course, the obvious answer, everybody would say Einstein because he had so many theories and stuff, but I have to say it's Wernher von Braun because look what he brought to us.
Amazing things. Dr. Travis Taylor, I got to run. I'm sorry, I'm up against a break. The show airs tonight. I'll give you all the details in just a moment.